What if there were a place where thousands of ancient temples emerge through morning mist, where rivers move slowly beneath forgotten kingdoms, and where silence still lingers across landscapes untouched by time? A land where golden pagodas rise above dense forests, where mountain villages remain hidden within clouds, and where the unseen exists quietly between water, stone, and fading light. Welcome to Myanmar, a country shaped by spirituality, river landscapes, and centuries of quiet endurance. From the endless temple plains of Bagan to the floating world of Inle Lake, from the sacred stillness of Shwedagon Pagoda to the mist-covered mountains of Shan State, Myanmar reveals landscapes where history and atmosphere remain inseparable. Here, the day begins slowly. Fog drifts across temple silhouettes, river reflections soften the horizon, and distant bells dissolve into the surrounding silence. This is not a place defined by speed or modern rhythm, but by continuity, where faith, landscape, and memory continue to exist side by side. In this cinematic journey, Hidden Planet TV 4K takes you beyond the surface into the unseen side of Myanmar, where temples, rivers, and silence remain in timeless harmony. Across the dry plains of central Myanmar, Bagan unfolds as a landscape where thousands of ancient temples rise quietly from the earth like remnants of another era suspended in time. The horizon is filled with silhouettes of pagodas and stupas scattered across the plain in endless repetition, creating a sense of scale that feels both vast and deeply silent. At sunrise, mist drifts slowly between the temples, partially concealing the landscape and allowing the structures to emerge gradually through soft golden light. From elevated viewpoints, the temples appear almost weightless against the open terrain, their forms blending into layers of haze and distance. The atmosphere remains calm throughout the day. Wind moves lightly across the plain, carrying dust and silence between centuries-old stone pathways. And where movement exists, the environment feels still, as if the rhythm of the landscape follows a slower passage of time. Sunset approaches, warm light spreads across the temples, deepening the colors of brick and shadow while preserving the stillness surrounding them. In Bagan, the unseen is not hidden behind the temples, but within the silence between them, where memory, faith, and time continue without end. Rising above the city of Yangon, Shwedagon Pagoda unfolds as a space where light, silence, and devotion exist in continuous balance. The golden stupa dominates the skyline with a presence that feels both immense and calm, reflecting sunlight throughout the day and glowing softly beneath the evening sky. Approaching the pagoda feels gradual. Long stairways and covered walkways guide movement upward, allowing the atmosphere to shift slowly from the noise of the city into a quieter, more reflective space. Within the complex, smaller shrines, bells and polished surfaces surround the central stupa, creating layers of movement and stillness existing side by side. Light changes constantly across the gold-covered structures. Morning reveals sharp reflections, while sunset softens the entire space into warm tones that seem suspended above the city. Even among visitors and rituals, silence remains present, not as absence of sound, but as a deeper atmosphere carried through the space itself. At night, the illuminated stupa appears almost detached from the surrounding darkness, standing like a solitary source of light above Yangon. In Shwedagon Pagoda, the unseen is not hidden within the structure, but within the stillness it creates, where faith, light, and time remain inseparable. High within the mountains of Myanmar, Inle Lake unfolds as a floating landscape where water, mist, and daily life exist in quiet continuity. The lake stretches gently beneath soft mountain silhouettes, its surface remaining calm enough to reflect the shifting sky and surrounding hills with near-perfect stillness. Villages, gardens, and wooden pathways rise directly above the water, creating communities that appear suspended between movement and reflection. During the early morning, fog drifts low across the lake, partially concealing distant boats and dissolving the horizon into layers of pale light. Fishermen move slowly across the water in narrow wooden boats, their silhouettes becoming part of the atmosphere rather than interrupting it. The rhythm of the lake feels unhurried. Even movement appears softened by the stillness surrounding it, as if time itself flows more slowly here. As sunlight grows stronger, reflections sharpen briefly before fading again into haze and distance. Inle Lake, the unseen is not hidden beneath the water, but within the stillness that surrounds it, where reflection, silence, and human life remain in endless harmony. Stretching across Tongthaman Lake in Myanmar, Bagan Bridge unfolds as a structure where simplicity and stillness create a presence far greater than its form alone. The long wooden bridge extends across the water in a continuous line, supported by hundreds of weathered teak pillars that appear almost weightless against the open lake. At sunrise and sunset, the atmosphere changes completely. Light softens across the water, transforming the bridge into a dark silhouette suspended between reflection and sky. Movement across the bridge remains slow. Monks, locals, and distant figures pass quietly through the fading light, becoming part of the landscape rather than separate from it. From a distance, the structure feels endless, its repetition and symmetry dissolving gradually into mist and horizon. The water beneath remains calm, reflecting fragments of the bridge and surrounding sky without ever fully revealing their edges. Even in moments of activity, silence dominates the environment, shaped by distance, light, and the steady rhythm of the lake. Bein Bridge, the unseen is not hidden within the structure itself, but within the space it crosses, where water, light, and time remain in quiet balance. Rising sharply from the central plains of Myanmar, Mount Popa unfolds as a landscape where isolation and elevation create an atmosphere suspended between earth and sky. The volcanic mountain stands apart from the surrounding terrain, its steep slopes covered in dense vegetation that contrasts sharply against the dry plains below. At its summit, monasteries and shrines cling to the rocky peak, appearing almost detached from the landscape beneath them. The ascent toward the top feels gradual yet distant. Stairways wind upward through mist, shadow, and silence, allowing the mountain to reveal itself layer by layer. From above, the surrounding plains stretch endlessly outward, emphasizing the mountain's isolation and the stillness surrounding it. Clouds and haze often gather around the summit, partially concealing the temples and giving the peak an almost unreal presence within the landscape. Even when visitors move through the pathways, the atmosphere remains deeply quiet, as if the mountain absorbs sound into the surrounding air. In Mount Popa, the unseen is not hidden beyond the summit, but within the separation between mountain, cloud, and silence, where landscape and spirituality remain inseparable. From the endless temple plains of Bagan to the golden stillness of Shwedagon Pagoda, this journey has moved through landscapes where spirituality and silence remain deeply connected. Across the reflective waters of Inle Lake and along the fading light of Bein Bridge, movement and stillness continue to exist in quiet harmony. Above the distant plains, Mount Popa rises through mist and cloud, carrying an atmosphere where landscape and belief remain inseparable. Throughout Myanmar, temples, rivers, mountains, and memory continue to shape a world that feels suspended beyond ordinary time. This has been Hidden Planet TV 4K, exploring the unseen side of Myanmar, where reflection, spirituality, and silence exist in timeless balance. And beyond what has been revealed, there are still hidden monasteries above the clouds, forgotten temples beneath drifting mist, and silent horizons where the unseen continues, waiting to be felt.